Riverboarding is the closest thing to flying. When you're on the water, riding a wave, at one with this raw, natural power, there's nothing else. Whitewater is magic. Gravity can just hold you there for what feels like forever. When you're swimming down the river and the landscape is unfolding before you, you can come across things that defy logic. A wave at times both terrifying and exciting, that it consumes every thought. A wave that you have to get back to ride just one more time. I was riverboarding before I knew what riverboarding was. When the creek by my house flooded as a kid, I would ride down it on various floaty objects. I was introduced to the Ottawa River through the outdoor adventure program at college. I was getting to know the river in a raft and in a kayak. I loved it, but I found boats very confining. I would always jump out of the raft. I just wanted to feel the water and all the currents. That summer I worked for a small raft company. One day the boss brought some riverboards to guide training. It was love at first surf. That's all I wanted to do from then on. The Ottawa River is almost unrecognizable from spring flows to summer flows. But there is always something to surf and do. The Ottawa is a deep river. Even in low water, we rarely hit rocks. Most of the rapids are drop pool, which means they finish in a lake, which is safe and is also likely to produce quality waves where the river meets the basin. We generally aim for waves and avoid holes. A hole is where the water is tumbling back on itself. It's a trap, stopping you from continuing downstream, thrashing you around while holding your head underwater. They come in a spectrum of sizes, shapes, and intensities, which all contribute to the danger factor. When we go exploring, there is no shortage of big holes. They are everywhere, and they are frightening. Finding a big wave is rare. Waves can form on the side of holes. Holes can also turn into waves. So we are always on the lookout for new waves, even if there is no waves currently present. Riverboarding is an extension of swimming that allows for more freedom.
I did not think you were going to make that so easily.
It's my shield protecting me from rocks, and it brings me to the surface. There is a whole side of riverboarding that goes unseen. What's happening on the surface is not always what's happening below. We know the Ottawa so well that we are willing to do things there that we won't normally do on other rivers. Like dropping into holes, toying with whirlpools and boils, and exploring seams and vortexes. In the summertime, when the water is warm, we look for places to purposefully go deep. We call it squirtboarding. While we are under the water, we are fighting our board's urge to come to the surface. This has really helped with our underwater spatial awareness. Now during the spring flood, when we're accidentally sucked under, we know where we are and are traveling in a safe direction even before we reach the surface.
Growing up, he always wanted to be playing some game, doing some silly activity that he would have a challenging time convincing everyone else to do. And 99% of the time, people would enjoy that adventure after it was done. For Tom and I, riverboarding is the perfect adventure. Tom made it easy for me to be able to jump into those bigger rapids earlier on. Finding a sport that kind of uses everything that we have trained for, not knowingly trained for, and puts it all together to something that is fun, new, quite a bit mysterious because you don't know how it's going to go. A lot of excitement, some challenges to get over, and takes an incredible amount of effort. Effort and adventure go hand in hand for me. If I finish a day and my head hits the pillow and I'm asleep instantly, I know I had a good day. And that's what riverboarding can do for me. A lot of the feelings that being in the middle of a rapid gives you is the same feeling that people love about like roller coasters. You know, you get that up and that down and that feeling of flight and so much dynamic stimulation happening all around you in the middle of the rapid. There is other ways to get exercise, but are they as fun? No, not even close. Would I rather go riverboarding or would I rather swim laps in a pool? Swimming back and forth or surfing a beautiful wave?
I didn't grasp at all what Tom did when I met him on the internet and like lurked his Instagram. I didn't really like understand. I literally didn't know what whitewater was before I met Tom. I was like, this is kind of weird. I thought kayaking was just like what like old folks did in the lake. Like I had no clue. But then when I went on to stakeout with them, I was like, oh wow, this is like intense and terrifying. I think anything to do with whitewater and like being at the mercy of the river requires some vulnerability. Something I've thought about a lot. I truly like trust in Tom's ability so much that I have never for a moment. Okay, that's not true. Sometimes when he's underwater for a really long time, I do get a little bit stressed. I feel the stress come up. But honestly, I really haven't, in the grand scheme of things, been scared for his life or been worried. Maybe I should be more worried. I'm often like looking at it through Tom, which is a very extreme version of what freestyle riverboarding is. It can also be a very simple, safe, playful thing, which Tom does too, and Tom also probably equally loves. He's always checking levels, he's always checking weather patterns, he's like talking to this person, talking to that person. Yeah, he's just obsessive, yeah. He is not himself, not being near a river chips away at him. Me, it's just an extension of who he is. He's really like in tune with his body and in tune with the nature. It's just like where he belongs. I don't really view it as him seeking some sort of wild thrill. To me, it's just like what he truly loves to do.
What do you think, dude? Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I had fun too.
Oh no! Oh my God!
Play is such an important element of riverboarding for him. He has found ways to use his boards in every environment, in the snow, as toboggans, on a lake, on the beach, even just scooting around on the streets with Wes. He figured out how to use these boards in so many different ways. And him and Jen are always coming up with different games that they can play together and how they can make things more fun or more challenging. Tom is always reminding me how important play is and how it's not just important to have in your child's life, it's also important for adults. Unfortunately, a lot of us have forgotten how to play as we've grown up, or at least we forget to prioritize play in our lives. It's obvious to anyone watching that riverboarding brings them both so much joy.
I'm Benny fucking Marr, and I'm being interviewed about Tom and John Paterson. Kayaking is like a huge, it's like my life basically. Everything revolves around kayaking. So as a kayaker and someone who specifically really loves surfing big waves, to see what Tom and John could do on the waves was really interesting. They're a lot faster than any of us can be. Their play area is, you know, a bigger wedge than we have based on the speed that they can generate and the fact that they can adjust the rocker of their riverboards. That just gives them more chances to be creative, I think. And on the creative side of things, these guys are, you know, they haven't invented this sport, but they have certainly brought this style of river recreation to big waves, and no one has done that before them. So everything they do is innovative. That is the coolest energy to be around. When I was a kid surfing big waves on the Ottawa River, I didn't want to look away from the wave because you never knew what was going to happen. And if it's at a big wave, maybe the biggest something or other would happen, maybe a new what would happen. And that was the most exciting part of it. That's why I really fell in love with it. And I feel like when they're surfing, you have no idea what's going to happen. They might do something that you've never seen them do before, and that means no one's ever done it before. There's only two of them, you know. Like, they multiply a little bit. Every once in a while there's more riverboarders, but the dedication that Tom and John have, like, they just belong. They bring so much fun energy and playfulness.
By watching Benny and the other pro kayakers, I was able to translate the air screw from kayaking to riverboarding. I'd catch the wave on my belly, then I'd push up to a kneeling or crawling position. Being on my knees is a lot less violent than on my belly. By shifting my weight from my knuckles to my butt, I can rock back and forth, up and down the wave, stacking up really tall and shooting down with speed. When I landed that first air screw, my whole life changed. From that point on, I was constantly in my own head, picturing rotations and thinking of new ways to do new tricks. I soon realized that the board was limiting my trick progression, so I started to make my own, experimenting with different shapes and materials, trying different prototypes on different waves. I just wanted to know what was possible. The second aerial trick was the board whip. This trick was inspired by the BMX trick, the tail whip. I installed a T-grip toggle handle so that the board could spin around and we would never lose contact with it. Little did we know that this was the training wheels for the cooler tricks. With John for safety, I was ready to try tricks where I release the board and reconnect with it. We would surf together and take turns attempting tricks, retrieving each other's lost boards. At this point, it got really exciting. We were now creating new tricks every couple of months. The board flip. The double board flip. The board spin. The double board spin. Halo board spin. The body variant. The insane flip. And the mind warp. I still really loved to throw air screws, but they were starting to hurt. So I combined the Sparta with the air screw to make the air screw Sparta, which looked flashier and was much softer on the body. I realized we could pair the body varial with other tricks. I started doing the board flip body varial, and John started working on the board spin body varial, and then insane flip body varial. Even with all these tricks, the trick that always eluded me was the front flip.
Tom started attempting front flips a long time before I even bothered to try. Year after year, hundreds of attempts. It was a lot of effort for something that I saw being impossible. But eventually he started getting real close. I started to realize that I would eventually have to start trying to land this as well, because he was going to land it. Start working on this myself. Well, here we go.
After finally landing the front flip onto my belly, I could now see new possibilities. We had been watching how Benny links his tricks, and we'd been linking some of our own. started to believe I could do front flip combos by landing onto my knees and initiating the next trick. I just needed to find the perfect wave.